you said men don't articulate well the point that you're trying to make. You articulated your point very well. You're very logical and you remind me of my husband the way you're able to break things down and be stern in your stance. And so no, I really appreciate what you were saying that you were a little frustrated because of the difference in sexes in the conversation. But no, you articulated yourself very well. I agree with you wholeheartedly. So yeah.
Can I ask what was the difference from what he said compared to what I said?
So,
So
okay.
oh well, it's a couple. We both start. So it's a
Without
it's a
including your emotions in it.
When you say
no
stuff,
no. I'm not
when you
emotional
say
about it.
that,
Yeah, well, I mean that adds the
That's
nuances.
fair. That's fair.
The nuances are removed. He's HD explained it very black and white, and he also explained the stance of why he disagreed, but he also acknowledged what we were saying at the same time saying why he disagreed with it. So I think for Viz, some of the things that you were saying, you kind of put this wall down of saying, I don't acknowledge what you're saying, y'all, because this is how it should be. Da, 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 da. You would say, you said I hear you a lot, but then you still go the opposite direction and saying, but
but
X, Y, X, Y, Z. So it's you're saying some of the same points, but HD is really breaking it down more logically, like black and white, to say, okay, y'all, this is what's being said, but moving forward, this is where we need to pay more attention to. So, yes, you are right in all of the things that you're saying about it. And that's what you kind of are skipping over, Viz. You don't want to acknowledge the different nuances of why things are happening. That's
I saw
no,
something different.
you saw something different. Go ahead.
So for
I
me,
agree.
I
I
think
agreed
that
with everything y'all was
so
saying.
yeah. So I think that it started out in the beginning when there were excuses. You came out was like, well, this is being covered way more than this. It was like you were trying to find an excuse after the excuse. It was like a defense thing that you were like oh, but it's the
minimizing,
news outlet. Like
minimizing.
they're the black men are, and then it started there. And then it
So
continued
so
on
y'all
to
took that as a so
no,
y'all
no,
took that as a jab of
no.
Let her
It
get it out, bro.
so
That's
it
part of
started
it too.
so what it did it started there, right? So most people, like, we want, you acknowledge that this is wrong, you know what I'm saying. It almost became a defense for Diddy, and then it came back around at the back end like, no, that's not what I'm saying, and then you start to clarify yourself along the way. But as it started, because I don't forget the beginning, as it started, it almost seemed like you came in on a defense of, you know, and that's the whole point of me saying I want to make very clear this is not a black man issue, because black men don't go around beating people. Let's be very clear about that. This is
right.
a Diddy who just so happens to be a black man, because I don't want people to put the face of this is what black men do, because this is not what
Right,
black men do that I know.
This
So
this is
right.
when you
what
start, so when you started
evil men
out,
do.
so when you started out that way, and it was like, oh, they're only doing it because it's a black, you made it a black person issue, when in actuality, he is the same as the rest of them, the people who are up
Mm-hmm.
there in power with him. He's no different from Epstein. He's no different from, and yeah, we pointed out, you may not have seen it, but I've seen them cover all of these things. It was almost like a defense for Diddy,
I
and then
never
it went
said
to
that I
something
didn't see them cover it. I said that I did see them cover it. All I said was that I saw them cover it more, being
else. So
that
that's,
it was
It
so.
sounds
I
like
get
it's
what you're
unfair
saying, but
to the
I'm just
black
telling you
man.
why we came the way, why I came the way I came, because that's how it seemed when you came in. I see what you're saying, but what
Right.
I'm saying to you is the reason why I said what I said, because from jump, it became like a defense Diddy thing.
It
You know
was
what I'm saying?
not. It
Even
was
when we
never a
brought,
defense
listen,
thing.
this. Even when we brought the Cassie, you turned it around and made it more importantly about what Cassie should have done
That's
than what
very true.
you do. And
That
we
is the
Guys on
part.
because
the
we
internet.
agree that as a victim, there are steps that you need to do. Everything that you said, we totally agree with. But what we don't want to do is make that so much bigger than the fact that This nigga put his hands on this
And
girl,
then minimize
who was running away from him. He chased her out. And this is what we can see. We don't know what else happened.
Right.
But what we saw was a woman who was trying to get away from a man who ran after her and gave her and then you were like, well, she should have. You know, we just want to acknowledge that first. And then on the back end, like HD did, on the back end, say, look, this is how we got to change. We got to look at it from both standpoints. You know, these both people. This is just what we know.
I hear what you're saying.
Ask a question.
So let me say this again, because I said this in the early stages before we even got into this. Any man that puts his hands on a woman is a coward. They deserve to be beaten with rocks, with rocks inside of socks. Any man that puts his hands on a child, that molests a child, that rapes a woman, anything of that nature, they deserve to be castrated. Period. I have no empathy whatsoever for men that do that.
Yeah, Biz, we didn't think that you felt any other way about this.
Let me finish. All that I'm saying is that there is going to always be men that are predators. There's always going to be predators, regardless of the race, regardless of the creed, whatever the case may be. That will always be. The only thing that we can do, that I can do as a Black man to prevent this from happening to my beautiful Black women, is tell them what it is, point blank and period, straight up and down. I'm sorry that I'm not saying it in the softest tone, but at this point, I feel that we don't need any more of that. So if HD is able to get that point across, then HD, thank you for saying that. But there's going to be somebody in the chats that is going to understand and comprehend what it is that I'm saying, and they're not going to take it as if I'm coming at them or downplaying what is going on, because I'm acknowledging what's going on. But the fact is that this can be prevented if we raise the awareness and make each person aware of how to prevent this from happening. That's all that I'm saying.
What can be prevented,
brother?
I want to know. I want to know what can be prevented, because you can be in a relationship and somebody just go upside your head. So whether it happens one time or whether it happens 20 times, that damage is still going to be done to that person. So
a little too much responsibility on the victim. I see what you're saying. He's putting a lot more responsibility on the victim than the predator. And so she has a small part, but I got what you said from the beginning. Because I'm trying to find the things that I do agree with on, so that's why I went that way. But what HD said, I learned something new about what he was saying. Like, hey, you guys want autonomy, so that means it comes with responsibility. So that's why it was impactful for me. And when you do it without the emotion and the bias, like if you have a bias about men are always going to seem to be like in the clear for whatever they do, then the first thing a woman's going to do, and this is my opinion, is we're going to defend the women. So it's like, if I hear that a lot, like this is, he should have, basically you're defending men a lot, right? Even
I'm not defending men.
It sounded like indirectly you were, because you're
but that's not what I'm doing.
We spent a whole lot of time talking about what the victim should have done versus what Diddy should have never did in the first place. But
we already know that.
It's like a dismissal of the feelings. So we were on the panel and we talked about women. Sometimes we need to talk and vent, but you presented a solution like way early, right? And so therefore sometimes it can't really click, because we were not ready for that solution. We wanted to hear more about like whatever we were talking about, be seen, heard, and then say, all right, yeah, here's the solution.